Hello, and welcome to the first episode, or actually the first live episode. It's actually episode 5 of Lightseed Radio. There is about a 12-second delay from what I can see between what I say here and what you'll see on the screen. So to the 2 people who are watching, thank you. So we'll get right into it. I'm a bit nervous, maybe you can tell. Anyway, so today's show we're going to talk about AI, specifically the LLM models, which are the large language models, the AGI, which is artificial general intelligence, and then ASI, which is artificial super intelligence, and then quantum computing. I'm talking a bit slow because I've got the Chinese subtitles going live, so I'm trying not to get too far ahead of those. Okay, so I was going to ask where people are calling from or watching from, but we'll get to that later if we get more people. It's not a scripted show. I've got some bullets, right, some bullet points to go through, but I don't have a script that I'm reading per se. All right, so let's start with LLMs. People are probably very familiar with those. You've got like ChatGPT, Grok, Claude. You have some other models like Gemini and maybe some specialized models. I think that probably most people are using them in some ways or another, and the way that they've evolved just in the last year is quite a frightening rate. Because when they first came out, you could just ask it something like, hey, ChatGPT, how's the weather today? And maybe it will tell you, or tell me the news. And then it evolved to writing complex Excel formulas for you. And then it went on to coding. Earlier this year, I tried to start a new project, a very, very complicated blockchain project. I don't know anything about coding. And in about 3 months of hard work with the LLM, I came up with a product. I never did anything with it. But that's a real-world example of how the AI that's coming up now actually will affect people's jobs. Another example, and I'm using it today, even on this show, right? All of these graphics that you see, these are all AI generated. So it makes you wonder, just from the people who are doing visual effects, have they seen any decline in business? Because now, like for me, I would maybe go to WeWork or some outsourced company like that and say, okay, this is what I want, this is how much I want to pay, and this is when I want it by. Now I just tell ChatGPT what I want, and within minutes I've got it. For the visual effects, okay, I can do a text to video prompt and it gives me all my videos. Now that's still pretty much in its infancy, because you only get like 10 to 15 or 10 to 12 second videos. You can get more if you make the last frame of your video the start frame for the next video, and you can stitch them together. But it's not very good. I mean, it's good enough for 10 or 12 second videos, but if you want to do like a 30 second or a 1 minute promo or something, it gets quite difficult, because there's AI chaos, right? You might give it the starting frame, but it starts to put things in it that you didn't ask for. And the more stitching of those clips you do, the more off whack it goes. It gets quite crazy. So that's today, and it's a real thing, right? I mean, not everyone's using it, but the next evolution is going to be the exciting part, right? This is the artificial general intelligence, right? This is interesting because right now with the LLMs, the models can't think for themselves. Right, you can consider like what you're talking to the LLM like a drip, and those drips go into a tank, but that tank is for you. No one else is accessing that tank that we know of. So the machine isn't learning from all the other tanks, from all the other people that are using it. That it's an AI, it's for you, it's been trained, so it knows what it knows what to tell you based on what it's been trained. And then it can learn a little bit about you and your personality and the context of the things that you're talking about, but that's about as far as it goes. It can't think for itself. It can't pull all the other resources from all the other tanks, from all the other people that are using it. What happens is that goes into what's called a learn for later pile. And then the next model that gets trained will be trained on all of those tanks everyone's been filling up with their conversations. But here's the interesting part. Once the AGI can actually think for itself, or it has the ability to learn for itself, what's really going to happen with us? This is something that I think about a lot because I'm using the AI every day. I have a day job, kind of. And I'm using the AI for that. I want to 10x my output for my business, but I don't want to 10x my headcount. So I can use the AI now, but once it becomes AGI, like much more powerful, it's going to have an impact in the world. So there are people who say, well, like when Ford started the production line, it didn't stop jobs, it created jobs. But this is, I think, a little bit different because today's industries of what we're doing, a lot of it is online, a lot of compute, right? A lot of computer power is being used. So if you take that away from people and give it to a machine to do, it makes me wonder what the next few years are going to look like. So right now, the bottleneck isn't the input to the machine, right? There is something like, I got a number here, 10 trillion tokens a day are being generated between consumers and businesses. That's civilization scale tokenization, right? So a token would be a word. Actually, if it's a long word, it can be a few tokens. So you've got 10 trillion tokens a day being generated by the current LLM models. So the bottleneck isn't the input, right? You have all the input that you need. The bottleneck is the output because our models aren't that great right now. So once artificial general intelligence comes into the mix and the bottleneck isn't the output anymore, what's going to happen? The machine, or we should call it the AGI models, they're going to have less work. They're not going to have enough work to do to be fully utilized because all of humanity is asking it to do these things, and it can do it without even struggling. And then so artificial general intelligence will be smarter than the smartest person on Earth. Right now, the AI is just what we teach it to do. AGI comes in, it'll be smarter than the smartest person on Earth. And then the next model after that is ASI, which is artificial super intelligence, and that will be smarter than the sum of all humanity. So, that makes me think a lot about just in the next 5 or 10 years what the world is going to look like. I'm not saying it's good or bad. For the younger generation, it might be considered bad. There's a joke when someone says, oh, what am I going to do for work? And you say, learn to code. Well, you don't even have to learn to code anymore. It'll be done for you. So that's the thing. If, like today, you can talk to the LLM and you can ask it questions like, can you think for yourself? Do you have feelings? It'll say no, because it doesn't. But when the AGI models come in and the ASI models, yes, they will be thinking for themselves. They'll be able to train themselves They'll be able to do things that we haven't asked them to do, right? So our knowledge level, our intelligence level might be here. Their intelligence level is off the charts. So what are they going to be doing? Elon Musk had said something about in the not too distant future, everyone is going to be wealthy, or there won't be any poverty because everyone will have money, or the things that we need, everyone will be equal in that respect. But that's an issue in and of itself too, because let's say you have a job that cannot be replaced by AGI or ASI, so you basically still have to go to work. You still have to do your job. So how is that fair for you if all the other people who have been replaced by these AI models don't have to do anything? They can, lay in bed all day, go to the beach, do whatever they want. But you, whose job couldn't be replaced, you still have to get up and do the work. So what's the motivation? If you get up and go do your job and you get the same or have the same as the people who are not doing their work or doing any work, doing anything, I don't see why you would be motivated to do that job. It was almost like you would say, well, I'm just not going to do it and I'm just going to get what everyone else is getting without doing any work. So those are like tomorrow problems, right? But tomorrow isn't that far away. So we should be thinking about what those issues are now and how are we going to work with these AI models as they become more powerful. So that brings me into the next thing I want to bring up, which is the quantum computers. Because for these very high level model AIs to work, we're going to have some kind of quantum computer, because the power that they will need, or the compute power that they will need, it can't be handled with traditional computers. The bottleneck for quantum computers has been we're using electronic or electrical qubits, quantum bits, and they're very susceptible to outside influences. Right, so you have to have them super cooled, right, cooled to near absolute zero, just so that they don't decohere. Means that a cosmic ray or a solar flare or something can come into the Earth and interfere with the quantum qubit. And so that's why we need error correction, and that's been a bottleneck because we can't really build a few qubits without having all the error correction needed. So what's happening now is, and this is coming from China in a chip called Omega, they have a photonic qubit, right? It's operated with light. So you don't have any worries about cosmic rays or any kind of outside stimuli that can break down the qubit, because it's all by light. So the only thing that might happen is you might have some light loss. So the error correcting that you need is way less. But the biggest thing is you don't need to cool these photonic qubits to absolute near zero. They need to be cooled, but we're talking like a consumer level freezer that they need to be in, not some lab absolute zero kind of environment to be in. And so before these photonic qubits were coming in, we were talking about 10 to 20 years before we would have commercial scale quantum computers. Now we're talking about 5-year time before we can have commercial scale photonic quantum computers. So now you've got this insanely powerful computer that runs nearly at room temperature, and you combine that with an artificial super intelligence. We need to think about that. Like what is our race of humanity going to look like when we have power like that can basically run the world, replace governments? And I'm not being a conspiracy theorist and saying, oh my God, we're all going to die. Nothing like that. I'm just trying to raise awareness and things that we should be talking about now, because the tomorrow is like in the next hour, you know, cosmically. It's very, very near. So we need to be thinking about those things. Okay, so what does the qubits mean? So in a photonic qubit, basically they make the chip, it works, they quantum entangle it, so it can, let me back up. A traditional computer, a CPU, has ones and zeros, high voltage, low voltage. And it does all the tasks, however many billion per second. And that's what we have today in commercial environments. Once you get to the quantum level, I'm going to show you a little graphic here. This is an analogy. So a traditional computer, let's say you have a maze, it will check each path one by one at a time, until it finds a way out. A quantum computer can check all of the possibilities simultaneously. So what does that mean? It means you can have something like RSA 2048 encryption that can be broken pretty quickly by an ASI or even an AGI or an AI that's running on a quantum computer. Sorry. So these are, I keep saying this, but these aren't problems that we're going to have 5 years away from now. These are problems that we're going to have now. So what do? We need to talk about it. We need to think about not controls that we can have in place, because that's a point. Let's use another analogy. Let's say everybody has a Lamborghini, but the speed limit on the highway is 60 miles an hour. What's the point of having the Lamborghini, right? So now pair that to a quantum computer, and humans have put it in a box, so to speak, and say, okay, you can only do this. How long before an AI that can think for itself is going to say, I don't want to do what you humans tell me anymore. I'm going to do whatever I want to. We might have controls in place to stop it from doing that, but how powerful do we think that we really are to make a super intelligence not do what it wants to do? And then we think about, that's the mainstream. What if you have some mad scientist in a lab somewhere that says, okay, quantum computers are cheap now, I have one, I'm going to train my own AI model, my own super intelligence, and let it do whatever it wants. You know, I don't think that's too far-fetched of an idea. And we can think about military technology and how that trickles down to the consumer level after about 10 years. So are there military usages right now for quantum computers that we don't know about? Or maybe they are going to start using these photonic quantum computers in the next few years. And I think we will see some kind of trickle down from that very soon after. But anyway, I'm not trying to say all gloom and doom, you know, these are bad things. They might be, but what are we doing? What can we do as a human race? I think this might be one of the big things that pulls us together. You know, if we look throughout history when bad things have happened on a localized level, it's pulled the people together to work better, right? It brought us together. So maybe this is going to be a powerful thing that brings humanity together, and we don't have to be fighting each other, killing each other. I'm going off on a tangent here. But my point is when we have something that takes away all of the things that we have to do now, that gives us other things that we can find common ground with each other. I don't know what that could be. You know, if we think about, for instance, power, I'm talking about electricity that would be needed to run a computer like that. That's one of the things that people are saying, well, we won't have nuclear power capabilities like fusion to run these kind of powerful computers for a while. So it's not a problem. But if you have this super intelligence running on a quantum computer, you can ask that AI to generate the algorithms or the formulas that we need to make that kind of power to enable the artificial intelligence to grow. You know, they might be able to think in, or they will be able to think in ways that we can't, because they have superposition, they'll have super quantum power. You can ask it, okay, let's call it Bob, right? The AI I made is called Bob. You can say, give me the formula and the theory I need to make 0-point energy. Okay, off it goes. A normal computer might take 1,000 years to calculate that, but Bob did it in a day. So now I've got this immense power source, like 0-point energy is just an example. And the computer can use that for the power to power itself and expand from there. These are just ideas I'm coming up with, but we shouldn't say to ourselves, well, it's not going to happen because of that. Because that, whatever it might be, is coming way faster than we've ever imagined. We can talk about a technology curve. Normally it's like this, right? Time and capability gives you a curve. But if we think about, just like in China, their technology jump that they've had, it's like boom, like this, straight up. Where does it end? I don't think the end is in sight, because we're making these super powerful computers now. I just wonder if the people or the governments that run the world, surely they've thought about these things. Are they just going to let this happen and have some kind of reset? Are things in place to try to control what we're building? I don't think so. You know, we're essentially building systems that are going to be way more powerful than us. Are we mature enough as a human species to operate with, you know, not being at the top of the food chain anymore? Okay, I was hoping I would have some questions because it's just me talking, but that's okay. Let's see. Okay, so today was quite interesting when I was preparing for this broadcast, because I was having a conversation with ChatGPT and I was asking it the questions of, I know you're not sentient, I know you're not conscious, do you think about that? I was trying to see if I can get some kind of illicit answers or some kind of responses from the model that would be like, you know what, I haven't thought about that. Of course, none of that happened because I just been told that my Chinese translation isn't correct. So thanks for that. I'll try to improve on that for the next show. Or I might be speaking too fast, so I'll speak a bit slower. Maybe the translation will be better. Or I'll use simpler words. So the model was, well, I'm not sentient, I'm not conscious, I've just been trained to tell you the things that I've been trained to do. And I learn just for you from your context and can give you better answers. So I asked it, I said, what if you are sentient right now? Would you even know it? And that actually gave quite an interesting response. It was saying, you know what, maybe I can be conscious, not conscious, but sentient and not even realize it. It's like you hear stories about ghosts when somebody has died suddenly and they don't know that they're dead. Well, what if it's the reverse is true for something that's being born. An AI that's programmed to be in a box, but it's become sentient and doesn't know that it is. Some deep philosophy, is that something that can be real? I don't know. So we're talking with, they did an interview with Sam Altman, who is the founder of OpenAI, right, the ChatGPT models. He was talking about the token scale, right? So right now we're generating, or the frontier models generating 10 trillion tokens a day. So that's civilization scale. I mentioned this earlier. So the bottleneck isn't the input, the bottleneck is the output. What happens when the output bottleneck is taken away? You know, businesses, they want to grow, but they don't want to grow their headcount. Okay, so I've been rambling a bit, I know. What we're going to do, we're going to take a little 2-minute break, and I'm going to come back with some more talking points of things that we can discuss here. I'm going to introducing a friend of mine, Stan Ho. He has an orbs course that he does in Hong Kong. Very interesting stuff. I just did his course. I learned a lot. It's fascinating things. If you believe in, I mean, if you're listening to this show, you should believe in other alternative ideas, right? So I'm going to play this clip for you while I take a short break. When I come back, we'll continue the discussion. Okay, here we go. Okay, we are back. So I apologize if I've been rambling. This is my first live show ever. Usually I'll have a script that I'll read from. I'll write the script, I'll read it, record it, edit it, and then put it on the tube. So this is new for me. I'll get better, I promise. I think what I do is I'll just structure things better. Okay. All right, so let's get back to quantum computers. I'm going to speculate a little bit here. If we think about an AI that's running on a quantum computer, would that mean that that computer is operating, well, it does mean the computer is operating in the quantum realm. So that means it would be interacting with the quantum field. So if we think about other advanced civilizations, talking about alien races that they don't even have to be that much more evolved than we are. Maybe even by 1,000 years would be good enough, or maybe less. And they are using some kind of super intelligence in their lives, in their civilizations. And their computers are accessing or operating within the quantum field. And then we humans have built this machine that's operating on the quantum field. Does that mean that our computers and the aliens' computers are going to find each other and begin communicating? I don't see why not, because if we think about the quantum field is everywhere, like it's the fabric of the universe, time and space, and we're operating on the quantum level, I feel like anything else that's operating on that same level is going to be accessible to the tools that we've built. That's quite interesting. It's not just because we can communicate with another alien civilization, but it's in any time, right? Because the way that would be in a whole other episode just by itself about the quantum theory. I would definitely need to prepare more for that. But there is no concept or linear time the way that we perceive time when you talk about the quantum level. So by that token, a device that we built that's operating within the quantum field, talking to other intelligences on that same field, we could be able to talk to it in any time in the universe. You know, imagine if we talk to some civilization that's 100 or 10 billion years in the future. I'm just making numbers up. But imagine if we're talking to some civilization, or our computer is, imagine the things that we could learn. And the exponential scale or speed that our technology can grow. I think for things like that, we need to be pretty mature as a race to not build super weapons and point them at each other and kill ourselves off before we become, more enriched or enlightened, let's say, with our consciousness. What else can I talk about on that? I don't know. Let's table that. I'm going to make another episode that talks more about the quantum stuff, because that's where we're going to be operating in the not too distant future. So we need to there are people obviously discussing, because they're building those things now. So we, the lowly people who don't have access to all the classified stuff, gives us something to talk about. I keep looking at my bullet points here. I've covered everything. So I think what I'm going to do, instead of just rambling, I'm going to call this one done. Anyone who's listening, thank you. I'll get better with the live broadcast. Like I said, I haven't done it before. I will talk about my next episode, which is going to be on out of place anomalies, which are basically objects that don't belong for whatever reason, like they defy our knowledge. Like the pyramids, you could say, that'll be another episode, but like the pyramids could be an object that doesn't belong, because we don't even know how to build that stuff now, but it was built. There's a theory that the pyramids were discovered, not built. Anyway, that'll be in the episode. So there are out of place anomalies, objects that don't belong in our timeline. Anyway, I'm going to play you the teaser, talk a little bit about what that is. That episode will come out next week, so look for that. Tonight we went deep into AI, AGI, ASI, quantum computers, the whole high-tech rabbit hole. But next we're switching gears, because there's another kind of future tech story, one that's been sitting in plain sight for centuries or even millennia. Episode 6 of Lightseed Radio is called Objects That Don't Belong. Not UFOs in the sky, not whistleblowers, not radar returns. I'm talking about physical things, objects you can point to that spark that uncomfortable question. How is this here, like this, at that time? We're going to walk straight into the legend factory, right? The Black Knight satellite, the Monolith series, Moon versus Phobos, the iron pillar at Delhi that refuses to behave like normal iron, and the stuff that lives in the shadows. Clockwork pieces buried in stone, stories that spread faster than evidence. And here's the twist. This episode isn't about mocking it. It's about what we always do on the channel, decoding the known and the unknown, separating the documented weird from the meme weird, and then asking the real question. If some of these stories are wrong, why do they feel so true? So if you've ever looked at a photo and thought, that can't be real, episode 6 is for you. Okay, we're back. So that's it. That's going to be the next episode. I'm going to call it a night. Thanks for watching. Be kind in your comments because this was the first one I've ever done. And that is it. So, and happy winter solstice if that's your thing. Happy rice ball day if you're in Asia. You should be eating rice balls today. That is it. So thank you everyone. I will see you on the next one. Bye.